What's going on, everybody? This is Joe.
And Amy.
And we are back with another episode of Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney. Last time, we finished our final day of investigations and found out almost all of the answers to our questions about what the hell happened with this case. We still have a few, like what is the deal with the Emma's handprint rag or whatever. But almost everything else we've solved, and we have finally found out that or we've gotten confirmation, I should say, that the bad guy is in fact Damon Gant, the chief of police.
Yes.
So,
bad guy.
Today, we go into our first episode of the final day of trial.
Okay.
Let's do it. Hey everybody, please don't forget while you are here to subscribe and ring that bell. You'll get notifications whenever any of our videos come out, including the continuation and up to the conclusion of this series in the coming weeks. We also have other series on this channel and other channels linked down in the description box below, so definitely check those out. We are here February 25th, 9:47 a.m., District Court, Defendant Lobby number 2. This is the defendant lobby, all right, but there's no defendant. So at the end of the last episode, Lana told us everything because we kind of figured it out. And so she figured that there was no reason to keep quiet because we basically had most of the information, and then she kind of filled in the blanks for us. But she also told us, or begged us essentially, to not pursue it in court any further.
Right.
And we immediately, after she told us not to, said, I have to pursue this in court further. Essentially. I've been trying to reach Lana all morning. Where could she be? In the detention center. That's the only place she could be. Unless she was released on her own recognizance or posted bail, she's still in detention / prison or whatever you want to call it. And where's Emma, for that matter? It almost seems as if something's been happening behind the scenes. Oh, it's Edgeworth. Edgeworth! Sorry, I didn't know who it was. I assumed it was Gant, but I was wrong. Knowing you've already figured it out. Who the owner of the 777-7777 ID number is, that is. Well, I have a pretty strong hunch. Looks like I'm not the only one who's figured it out. You know, the only reason this trial didn't reach a verdict yesterday is because there was still room for doubt regarding this ID record. If that number does belong to whom you suspect, then no doubt will remain. After all, he hasn't been officially charged with anything. True. Not yet. In any event, once all doubt has been removed from that list, I can call for a ruling. 5 minutes, Wright, and Chief Prosecutor Skye will be found guilty. But she didn't do it! I figured you'd say as much. That's why I came here. To hear what you have to say. This is the first time he's ever done something like this.
Yeah.
Lana's hiding something, and the only way we'll ever know the truth is to draw it out of her. The truth? Everything goes back to the SL9 incident. Don't be stupid. Today's the last day of the trial. We don't have time to reminisce about the past. That depends on you. If she's found guilty, you'll lose your only chance to find out what really happened. I'll think about it. See you in court, Wright? This is it. If I'm ever going to find out what Chief Gant has on her, it's now. February 25th, 10 a.m., District Court, courtroom number 9. So we have no Emma, we have no Lana, it's just us.
Okay.
I assume they'll make some big, entrance at some point. Court is now in session for the trial of Ms. Lana Skye. The defense is ready, Your Honor. The prosecution is ready, Your Honor. Normally, this is when the prosecution puts forth its opening statement. But before that, the police chief has a proposal to make.
I bet he does.
Chief Gant. He materializes on the witness stand.
Yeah, he just appears there because he's a fucking evil magician. He's a fucking sorcerer.
Morning, folks! How's everyone doing? Hey, Ajit, been back to the pool yet? No, I've been drowning enough as it is in my work. Ho-ho, that's a good one. Don't think I can top that. If you don't mind me asking, Chief, exactly what is this proposal of yours? Oh my god, dude.
Long pauses.
Yeah. Lana, that is to say the defendant, has asked me if she could speak directly to the court. She wants to do what? Having heard what she intends to say, I feel she should be granted her request. So why are you coming in here saying this? I mean, presumably it's because he's the one who mandated her to do it. But,
exactly.
But it's like, she could have Phoenix could have made that request.
Yep.
In the end, it should save everyone a lot of time and trouble. Well, Lana's here. What's this all about, defendant? I'd just like to make one simple request, and I'll be finished. Well then, what's your request? Your Honor, I'd like you to put an immediate end to this trial. Huh? I confess to all charges against me. On February 21st of this year, I murdered Detective Bruce Goodman in the underground parking lot of the prosecutor's office. No, Lana! You can't! Your Honor, the defendant's claim does not change the defense's plea. I mean, this is so weird. What the hell? It's her plea to make.
Yeah, exactly.
Even if we're her attorney, right? It doesn't matter. She is the one that makes the plea. It's important for this game and for justice,
right,
for us to get the truth out there, but she's allowed to make a guilty plea if she wants to.
Right.
And she can turn around and fire us.
Well, I mean...
and make whatever plea she wants on her own.
I mean, she had a guilty plea from the beginning, because she confessed to the murder.
Yeah, I don't exactly remember how that worked. I'd have to go back and watch the earlier episodes of how we ended up actually being able to represent her anyway when she was just trying to, plead guilty.
Right.
Because, spoilers, folks, if you want to plead guilty, you can do that, especially if you've discussed it with your attorney, and they recommend that it's the proper course of action as well. But then you're not going to go to trial for 3 days like this has.
Right.
You just go to court, say that you're pleading guilty, the judge accepts it, and then you go to sentencing, which is a separate hearing or whatever, and that's the end of it. Then you get sentenced. So,
right.
In that case, Mr. Wright...
But,
sorry.
I'll stress, if you didn't do it, you probably shouldn't.
It depends on the situation, and it's a discussion to have with your attorney. But yes, typically that is the correct answer. And so here you go. Like I said, I no longer require your services. She has every right as the client to keep us as her attorney or fire us as her attorney whenever she wants. We, as the attorney, can ask for a sidebar and go speak to the judge and explain to him, listen, we believe she's being coerced.
Right.
But all that occurs is the judge asks her on the record, are you being coerced? And if she says no, it doesn't really matter what we say at that point, unless we want to go to the police and file a police report.
Just ask her if she's being coerced?
Yeah.
That sucks.
It's one of the questions.
Because she's gonna say no, and pretty much anyone who is being coerced is going to say no. And then it's just going to be a lie.
Well, yeah. I mean, you could ask, you can sometimes ask for the courtroom to be cleared. Mention to the judge, listen, we believe that the person who's coercing her is in the gallery. We'd like you to, would it be possible to clear the courtroom so that you can ask her that question? That's possible. The problem is, Gant is the one who's doing it, and he's the chief of police.
Right.
So he very well would be like, well, if you're clearing the courtroom, I get to stay, because I'm the chief of police. And you can't make an accusation against the chief of police to the judge like that without any proof whatsoever. It's not really professional or appropriate.
We have some proof.
I mean, do we though?
Not really, because we didn't acquire that with any kind of
Right. Otherwise, we bring in Gumshoe, who just got fired by Gant the day prior.
Right.
So he has
So that's
all the
not reliable.
right. He has all the motive in the world to lie. So no, it doesn't really work that way. Like we're kind of, because it's the chief of police, we're kind of screwed, right? If it was a spouse or something of Lana's, you could say, "Can we have the courtroom cleared?" The judge clears the gallery. The husband has to leave the room, and then the judge gets to ask her, and we, as her attorney, get to say, "Listen, now's the time. He's not in the room. Like, tell the truth. Say that he's compelling you to say these things." Because it's Gant, it's a lot tougher, which is why it's a game, and it's, this is much less typical of a situation, I would imagine. But yes, I no longer require your services. But Lana! Your Honor, I hereby forfeit my right to an attorney. That's an interesting way of putting that. That's not correct. It's correct, I suppose, but you would just say that you fire him.
Yeah.
Like, during trial, what's going to happen is the judge is still going to say, especially because it's the final day of trial, the judge is likely going to say, "Okay, who do you want to represent you?" "Well, myself." "Okay, you're allowed to represent yourself, but I am going to still ask Mr. Wright to remain at the table with you in case there are any situations that come up, especially because I was going to say because she's not an attorney, but she is. So still, the judge would likely, I've seen it done before, the judge would likely, at his own discretion, at least ask Phoenix Wright to remain there for the remainder of that day. So, yeah, we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if he's then going to try and go help Edgeworth, actually get the truth out of her that way.
So again, laws are really weird in this game, right? Of how this stuff works, or procedure or whatever you want to call it. But I would doubt it. I don't think a prosecutor is going to allow a defense attorney to go stand with him. Like, the prosecutor works for the state, right?
Yeah.
So you can't just be like, "Yes, I deputize you, random defense attorney. Come help me in this case right now that I'm doing my job in." No, I don't. While in a game setting that might make sense, in reality, that shouldn't ever work that way.
Okay. So Phoenix is not going to be able to make objections to things that are said that he knows are untrue?
It depends on what's going to occur. I imagine that we're not going to see Phoenix anywhere else but that table. Something's going to happen here that's going to let him stay. But yeah, I mean, if he's not her attorney anymore, he would have no business in the courtroom besides, if there's the gallery. So he could go sit in the gallery with all the people that chat and the judge has to bang his gavel or whatever.
Right.
So no, I mean, if from the gallery he can't call objections out, he would have no more business in the trial than some random person off the street at that point.
Okay.
So, the prosecution may lack direct evidence against me, but it has sufficiently proved its case through testimony and circumstantial evidence. I would like you to render your verdict now, if you please. Well, the defendant certainly has the right to self-representation. Thank you, Judge. That's absolutely correct. Her request is legally valid, although this is an unprecedented situation. Which is not wholly true. I mean, well, maybe in this world. But, people self-represent all the time, even this far into a trial. They're like, "You know what? I can't have this attorney anymore. I just can't do it. They're fired, and because it's this far into trial, I'm just going to represent myself." Again, the judge would, first of all, have to definitely advise the defendant against that course of action.
Right.
And that is a personal thing. And the judge can say something to the effect of, "You have every right to do that," which this judge mentioned, "but I strongly advise against it." Right? And the judge has every right to do that as well.
Legal jargon, procedure, everything else.
Right. I mean, again, she's an attorney as well, but...
Yes, she is, but in any other situation,
Correct.
They would assume that you would have less of an advantage with not an attorney.
Right, exactly. And so, yeah,
that makes your trial unfair.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, and even if you are an attorney, there's a lot for you to focus on. Your, freedom is on the line.
Right.
So it's, even as an attorney, it's still ill-advised for you to represent yourself. There's just way too much for you to focus on. Plus, you tend to run into the issues of, what if you're going to take the stand? Who's going to question you? Like, do you, or what about, like, you're asking questions? Well, it's going to be a little awkward. In this case, it's just the judge, but if there was a jury there, it's kind of awkward to walk up and say to, like, somebody who's a witness either for your case or the prosecution's case, well, what did I say to you?
Right.
And what did you think about me? You know what I mean? Like, it's a little odd.
Right. And that'll make it unfair too, I feel like, because then coercion could be caused in that way too, because it's like you're the one asking them the questions about their interactions with you. The things that they say might be different than if they were saying it to a lawyer.
Sure. I mean, but the judge might have instructions for them of, please be aware, even though this person is not an attorney, they are asking you questions. You are under oath. Like, you need to answer them as truthfully and honestly as possible, or, face perjury charges or whatever.
Right. Well, I just mean, like, you might try to say things in a more delicate manner.
Well,
as opposed to making it like, as cut and dry as it should be.
Well, and along those lines, you as the questioner, then, if you're representing yourself, these people are going to be saying presumably horrible things about you.
Right.
And if they do, you as the questioner would still have to try to keep your cool somehow.
Right. And it has to not affect you in a way where it makes you unable to do the job of being the lawyer in that situation, since you don't have one.
Exactly. Hence why it's very ill-advised. So yes, her request is legally valid, although this is an unprecedented situation. Indeed, it appears there's no further need to continue this trial, even if Mr. Wright may feel otherwise. This can't be happening. It appears the time for the verdict has arrived. This court finds the defendant... Yeah, I knew it was going to be Edgeworth. One moment, Your Honor. Mr. Edgeworth! The prosecution has not yet proven the defendant guilty beyond reasonable doubt. If you believe that, then that's up to the judge to say, because if they haven't proven their case beyond a reasonable doubt, and she's asking for a verdict right now, you can object to the verdict, right, or to the fact that she's asking for a verdict. Mm-hmm. Because you feel that you haven't proven it yet, and the judge hasn't handed down a decision. So what Edgeworth could be saying here is, okay, well, it's very nice that you want a verdict right now, but we're not done presenting our case in chief.
Right.
And because we're not done, you haven't been proven guilty in my eyes as the prosecutor here, and the judge has that discretion. If the judge thinks that there is reasonable doubt that she was the one who committed this murder, then the judge would say, well, okay, I'll make my decision. You're not guilty. Right? And then she's screwed because that's not what's supposed to happen. Edgeworth may be helping her in this case.
Right. Well,
the way
he is in two different ways.
Yes.
Because he is helping her if the result is a guilty verdict, and he's helping her if the result is a not guilty verdict.
Correct. Any ruling at this stage would certainly be premature. Come now, Worthy. I understand this is a difficult time for you, but why don't you just be a good little boy and keep your mouth shut? Ooh,
I want to knock this guy's head right off his fucking neck.
Edgeworth doesn't give a damn. Huh. I don't think I care for your tone, Chief Gant. What? Creating another fabrication to cover up your past mistakes. Sorry, but I'm no longer the naive little boy you would have me be. With this sudden confession from the defendant, it's obvious to me some kind of deal was struck behind the scenes. Some kind of deal, Not everyone operates as you do, Worthy.
Wow.
Awesome. Huh. I thought so. Your Honor, the prosecution would like to change its first witness. Oh? To whom? The Chief. As its first witness, the prosecution would like to call Ms. Lana Skye.
Nice.
I request the court hears her testimony. Who just said hold it? Oh, she did. She just doesn't have a voice. Mr. Edgeworth, I am exercising my right to self-representation. That...
Congratulations. That has nothing to do with the witness you just
No,
called.
it does not. He's presenting his case. You can ask her questions and cross-examination after he's done questioning her. I don't think we need to continue... I don't care what you think, Ms. Skye.
That was hot.
The exposure of truth sometimes results in tragedy. However, no matter how tragic the truth may be, it would be an even greater tragedy to avert one's eyes from it. It's a pretty good line.
I don't know if it's appropriate here so much as like a book of Proverbs, but...
Very well, the court shall grant the prosecution's request. That's okay with you, right, Chief Gant? Why would you ask him his opinion on that? It's irrelevant. What is he doing here? Why does he have any say in your courtroom? Is that okay with you, random person who I am saying whether they get to say it's okay in my courtroom? Screw you, Judge. Who gives a shit what Chief Gant thinks? Worthy, you'll live to regret this. Mark my words.
That sounds like a threat.
A little.
It's a good thing that he's...
on the record.
placing threats in the courtroom right now.
That's right. Ms. Emma Skye, please take the stand. Looks like Edgeworth has decided to take the horse by the reins. Why are you still standing there? You didn't get to stay at your post. She's representing herself. Now then, witness, please state your name and occupation. My name is Emma Skye. My occupation? I'm Lana's little sister, and I want to be a scientific investigator.
She's so cute.
The correct answer to that was just student, Emma. That's it. College student, maybe. Anyway, whatever. 2 years ago, you encountered the serial killer Joe Dark of the Joe Dark killings. Is this correct? Yes. I'm trying my hardest to forget about that, though. I'm sorry, but I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to recall those events one more time. Mr. Edgeworth, please remember this trial concerns the murder of Detective Goodman. Is an incident that was resolved 2 years ago really all that relevant? Yes, it most certainly is. Well, okay then.
Well, if you say yes, then it must be. I mean, it is, but...
He sure gave in fast. Now, please testify about what happened to you 2 years ago. The trip to yesteryear has finally begun.
The hell? I think they're just trying to make his presence here relevant in any kind of capacity.
Oh my god. It's bound to lead to the truth behind this trial. Okay. Witness testimony 2 years ago. I was waiting in my sister's office that day. A man came running in and took me hostage. Neil Marshall rescued me, but I'll never forget what I saw in that instant. The man raised up his knife and stabbed Mr. Marshall in the chest.
He had a dumpling on his head.
Yeah, it's real weird looking. It's a good thing you weren't harmed. That's nice of you, Judge. I passed out. I don't remember much. That's understandable. However, please tell me, Mr. Edgeworth, what does this testimony have to do with Detective Goodman's murder? That will soon become apparent, Your Honor. You've got to admire him for his courage, considering he has no evidence. Very well, the defense may begin its cross-examination. That's not us, though. Who's cross-examining her? 2 years ago. It's got to be,
Maybe we're
Lana,
playing as Lana?
I don't think so. Phoenix is still standing there.
But would it be okay for Lana to question her? It's her sister.
Doesn't matter.
Oh, okay.
It's her trial, right? Like, you would still have people close to you who witnessed things relating to your trial.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you're thinking of, like, conflict of interest, but it doesn't really work that way because she's the defendant, right?
Okay.
So the conflict of interest would come up if somebody that was positioned that could be removed from the case, like Phoenix or Edgeworth or the judge, had some type of a personal relationship with the defendant.
Gotcha.
That person would claim conflict of interest and recuse themselves, or be like challenged as a conflict of interest and be removed, and then somebody else would come in to fill that role. The witness can't be changed because she's the only one who has personal experience,
Right.
and Lana can't be changed because she's the only defendant.
Okay.
So you would have a conflict of interest with somebody who was removable from the situation, but not witnesses like this.
Okay.
So I guess we just still do our thing. I was waiting in my sister's office that day. Somehow we're just still going along like this makes sense. 2 years ago, the defendant was a detective at the police department, correct? Yes, she was second in command under then Deputy Chief of Police Gant. My sister. She was the best detective ever.
She's so cute.
Yes, I remember. Deputy Chief Gant and Miss...
She was the best detective ever.
Deputy Chief Gant and Miss Skye used to be quite the pair. I believe they shared the same office. That's right. I'd always sit at my sister's desk and dream about playing that organ. I wanted to play it that day, too. The police department and the prosecutor's office held a ceremony that day. Lana promised to take me to dinner after she finished her work. A man came running in and took me hostage. A man? Yes, Joe Dark. He was a serial killer. Joe Dark was brought in for questioning on the day of that ceremony. We were desperate to get anything on him that would lead to an arrest. When he saw his chance, he fled the room, right? Upon fleeing the room, Dark proceeded to take the elevator. He must have been in a panic because the elevator was going up. Then he ran into Skye and Gant's office. There was a lot of noise coming from outside, so I opened up the door to have a look. That's when I saw him. God, apparently, because of the capital H. Neil Marshall rescued me. Whoops, sorry.
She saw God because she played the organ
in
front of the stained glass windows.
That's right. What was the prosecutor doing there? That day, there were 2 people present during Dark's questioning. Deputy Chief Damon Gant and Prosecutor Neil Marshall. And somehow I am the one testifying to this fact instead of Emma, even though Emma's the witness, and it makes no goddamn sense for me to be testifying to this. I'm answering your question, Phoenix. I hope you're happy. Almost forgot about Gant. Neil Marshall had just received the King of Prosecutors Award, and again, I'm the one testifying to this. And this is just being permitted to be entered onto the records as such. Young and dedicated, he went straight to the questioning room after the ceremony. I assume that would also be why he was the first to run after Dark. When Dark grabbed me, I thought I was as good as dead. And that's when Prosecutor Marshall came running in? I don't clearly remember what happened then, but I'll never forget what I saw in that instant. Can you tell us about that? Mr. Marshall jumped on Dark. Just then, the lights went out. The lights? It was just about this time of year. There was a terrible storm going on, and lightning struck nearby.
I was gonna say, sometimes when I enter a room, if I brush the wall or whatever, I'll hit the switch with my, my shoulder or whatever.
Sure, yeah.
My elbow.
So the electricity went out? You knew this already, dude. Wait a minute. If it was pitch dark in that room, you shouldn't have been able to see anything, right? Right, but just then, lightning flashed again outside. That sudden flash left an unforgettable image of the scene in my mind. I see. I told the detective about what I saw then. The detective? Yes, Detective Goodman. He was in charge of the case. Detective Bruce Goodman, the victim. Hear more or stop?
Hear more.
Why would you ever not hear more? So you spoke with Detective Goodman about this 2 years ago. Yes, that's what's so scary about this trial. And you told Detective Goodman about what you saw? Yes, but at the time, the words just wouldn't come out. That's why I drew a picture. A picture? Yes, I think she mentioned that before. Mm-hmm. And we have it in evidence. Well, Mr. Wright, have you heard enough? Ask about the picture. This picture the witness drew. I believe it has a very important meaning. But the list of evidence I was given 2 years ago didn't contain a picture. Witness, would you mind if we added this statement to your testimony? Yes, Your Honor. So there we go. I drew a picture of that scene once, but it seems to have been lost. Bam! Let's press her on it now, and then come back and present it to her later.
Okay.
Spoilers, people, if you'd missed the last episode, you should have gone and watched it, but I'll tell you now, we found that picture on the back of the remainder of the evidence list.
Right.
Edgeworth has only half of the evidence list. We found the other half in Gant's office with her drawn picture on the back of it.
Right.
Oops, sorry, I did the wrong thing. My bad, I forgot to press. There we go. You drew a picture of the scene you witnessed, right? Yes, I wanted to do everything I could to help the investigation. I can still see it now, whenever I close my eyes. That's strange. I took over the case after Prosecutor Marshall died, yet I never received any picture. Perhaps the witness is mistaken? But I did draw it, I swear! I'm not just imagining it! This picture that Emma drew, that reminds me. I guess I should check the evidence again. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Well, anyway, let's continue. This scene that imprinted an image in your mind, can you please describe it to us? The man raised up his knife and stabbed Mr. Marshall in the chest. That must have been a real shock. Even now when I close my eyes, I can still see it just as clearly. Tell us.
That's so fucked up.
Yeah. What were you doing at that moment? I believe you testified that Joe Dark was holding you hostage? When lightning struck and the lights went out, Mr. Marshall jumped on Dark. I was thrown aside and the two began wrestling each other. I'm pretty sure I was watching them. Emma doesn't have any reason to lie, but Lana sure does. I need to get Emma to tell me as much about this as she can. Alright, so now we're back to the beginning. Neil Marshall rescue me. I drew it. Here we go. Okay. Let's present her with that picture, shall we?
Yep.
Mr. Edgeworth. This little girl put all her heart into drawing that picture. And yet, you would insist on denying its existence? Wow, you're going hard on Edgeworth here. It's not his fault, dude. Huh? Hey, I'm not the bad guy. Yeah, thank you. Jesus.
Yeah, it was Gant who stole the evidence and put it in the safe.
Yeah.
In his office.
All I'm saying is that as a prosecutor for that case, I wasn't handed such a picture. That may well be. But that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Behold!
Eureka!
Behold! This is the evidence list for the SL9 incident. Please turn it over, Your Honor. Turn it over? Turn it... Ugh! What's this? Yes, what is that? Hey, that's it! That's the picture I drew! Indeed, two men appear to be wrestling here. I mean, kind of.
One man appears to be stabbing another man.
What's the meaning of this? What are you doing with that list? Me? Only the prosecutor in charge should have access to that list.
That's not true.
Huh?
Both sides would have it.
No. So if that could be an internal document produced by the prosecutor's office for the evidence list. Like the court would have its own, but if the prosecution's office may have an internal list that they make up of like, here's all the exhibits, here's what they're used for,
Yeah,
here's
but
their
it's
numbers.
Not. It's from the detectives, or it's from Chief Gant.
Chief Gant had it. That doesn't mean it's from him. Because Edgeworth had one, but he only had half.
Yeah, but who was he getting it from then?
Who?
If it was an internal document. Edgeworth.
It's a prosecution's office document. It's his office. He would have created it, or one of his, like, secretaries or whatever.
Oh, okay. I guess he could be getting it from a secretary, sure.
Like, somebody has to make it. Huh? These lists, they're different from each other. What? It would appear, Mr. Edgeworth, that the evidence list you were handed 2 years ago was incomplete. These two lists fit together to form one. You can see the marks here where they were torn apart from each other. So you see, Mr. Edgeworth, It's quite obvious what happened. 2 years ago, only half of the evidence in that case ever reached you. What? What? Order! Order! But Miss Skye, why did you draw your picture on the back of such an important list? Because that's what Detective Goodman handed me in the questioning room, Your Honor. Wait a minute. If this list was torn in half, then that means... Your Honor! Are you all right, Mr. Wright? Your eyes are bulging from your head!
You would know, because yours are too, currently.
If the evidence list was torn in half, then there might be more of the drawing on the back of Mr. Edgeworth's list.
Probably.
Yeah, I would doubt that too. Yes, that's quite conceivable, Mr. Edgeworth. Have you literally never turned over the list that you've been talking about constantly? It's possible. Let's see. You alright? Like squeezing out a shit in the middle of the courtroom? Constipated, maybe? Is something wrong? Do you even have to ask? Oh, he's real mad. Sorry, Your Honor. There is indeed something drawn on the back of my list, even though while I'm holding it, there's literally nothing on the back of this paper. It's that thing. Yes! The blue badger!
I knew that fucker would make a comeback.
That's that thing! That thing was dancing in the evidence room!
Yep, it sure was.
I love it so much. Clearly, this act of vandalism is the work of a certain chief of detectives. I guess he was out of scrap paper. That's amazing. Evidence list restored and updated in the court record. List of evidence in the SL9 incident. Half of this list was found in Gant's desk. Very well. Witness, will you please testify about this picture you drew 2 years ago? Huh? Oh, yes, sir, Your Honor. What's wrong with Emma? She seemed to be thinking about something when she was looking at the picture. Okay. Emma's picture. This is the picture I drew 2 years ago. The flash of lightning was so bright, all I could see were shadows. After that, I must have fainted. This picture shows exactly what I saw in that instant. To think a flash of lightning could burn such an image in your mind! Thanks to that, though, she was able to show us exactly what she saw. Well, I don't see any contradictions here. This clearly shows Joe Dark about to murder prosecutor Neil Marshall.
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. The defense may now begin its cross-examination. I mean, it's possible that that's what she saw, but we also don't know that for a fact. Emma's picture. This is the picture I drew 2 years ago. I don't know why I would question you on this, but let's do it. Did you draw this picture right after the incident? I think I drew it 2 or 3 days later. At first, I was in such a state of shock that I couldn't do anything. During that time, the investigation team was reorganized. Detective Goodman was placed in charge, under the direction of Damon Gant and Lana Skye. 2 or 3 days later, the memory should still have been fresh in her mind. I mean, I'll give you that, sure. Excuse me, witness. But can you please tell us why this picture is painted all black? The flash of lightning was so bright, all I could see were shadows. So at the time you didn't even know it was Mr. Marshall who had come to your rescue? No, I couldn't see him clearly. The lightning was so bright, and I was knocked to the floor. You were knocked to the floor? Dark had a tight grip on me, but when Mr. Marshall jumped on him, I was knocked away. I turned around, and that's when the lightning flashed. Does that mean they're trying to imply that that's not Joe Dark? Because that's clearly Neil Marshall.
Yeah.
But that might not be Joe Dark. I mean, it probably is, but it might not be as well.
I guess.
Poor Emma. I'm just glad she wasn't hurt. What happened after the lightning flashed? After that, I must have fainted. You mean you didn't see... Sorry. You mean you didn't see the actual murder take place? No. I'm sorry. Why would you be sorry about that?
Yeah.
I'm sorry I didn't watch a man die in front of me who tried to save my life. The flash of lightning only drove off the darkness for a split second. Not only that, but the trauma of the situation understandably caused the witness to faint. Do you really need to torture this girl any further? What? Hey, I'm not the bad guy here. Now they're both saying it. Anyway, this picture shows exactly what I saw in that instant. Whoops, sorry. That's strange. She claims this is exactly the scene that was imprinted in her mind. And yet, there's clearly a contradiction here. Yeah. Okay. What are we going to present to her for the contradiction? Well, hold on. Let's get to the... Because I forgot to press on that last thing. I just pressed enter. After that, I must have fainted. This picture shows exactly what I saw in that instant. Sorry for asking so many times, but are you sure you drew exactly what you saw? Of course! This is the exact scene. It wasn't influenced in any way from your talks with the detectives? Are you insinuating we somehow manipulated her memory, Mr. Wright? I mean, no, you're not a detective, so you're not part of the we, but, I mean, otherwise, yes? No, of course not. I'd better watch out, or he might find some way to cut my salary. I drew this picture before I heard anything from the detectives, so I don't think anyone's story would have influenced me. Mr. Wright, is there something that's bothering you about this picture? Huh? Oh, well... That's strange. She claims this is exactly the scene that was imprinted in her mind, and yet there's clearly a contradiction here. Oh, god damn it. Okay. That I don't know. What is the contradiction? What are we going to show? We have this piece of cloth. We have the evidence list. We have the picture. Ah, he was stabbed in the back.
Oh. Got it.
Me too. Okay, good. That's helpful. Alright, so then this picture shows exactly what I saw in that instant. Okay, let's give it a try.
I mean, in the picture, it kind of looks like he's being stabbed in the back.
I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but this picture the witness drew contains a blatant contradiction. What? But I still remember it just like it was yesterday. Mr. Wright, perhaps it would be faster if you simply pointed out this contradiction for us. What part of this picture contradicts the autopsy report? Like his back? Where?
I guess, like, click on the hand that's... Oh, no, because that's holding him, not stabbing him.
Yeah, it's like...
The other hand is the one that's stabbing him.
It's gotta be, like, this area, I guess? It just feels weird to, like, click here. It feels like it should be this, but that's not contradicting the autopsy.
So do, like, the hand, like, where the hand is touching him, kind of. Like,
here?
at the bottom of it.
Like this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not so sure, but we'll see. I think it's, this part here. I don't see what's so strange about that. That's because the drawing stinks.
Wow. Amazing.
We messed up, so insult a child's drawing.
Why? I can't.
God damn it. Mr. Wright, how could you? The act of making an innocent girl cry should warrant the death penalty. Good Lord! I guess he means I shouldn't shift the blame to others. Yes, well, so long as the defense has learned his lesson. I can't believe that just happened. I better take another look at that autopsy report and this picture. Mr. Wright, perhaps it would be faster if you simply pointed out this contradiction for us. All right, so we showed the autopsy. Let me read it one more time. Name of the deceased is Neil Marshall. Date and time, February 19th, between 7 and 7:30. Single stab wound, piercing the heart and lung. Died from blood loss in under 10 minutes. Weapon found in wound was missing tip. I mean...
Because it never had a tip.
Yeah, but we don't... That's not what we're going to be able to show with just that picture. So, perhaps it would be faster if you simply pointed out what part of this picture contradicts the autopsy report. I would guess it's just this. But I feel like I'm wrong. The contradiction, of course, lies here. Take a look at the knife the man is holding. So yeah, I don't know why, but it's like the only discerning feature, so let's find out.
Yeah.
If you look closely, you can see its tip is broken. Even I don't have to look closely to see that, Mr. Wright. But Mr. Wright, look at the evidence. See the murder weapon? Its tip is broken too. If I recall, the tip of the knife was found broken off in the victim's body. It was the conclusive piece of evidence that proved Joe Dark was the murderer. I'm afraid it's not so simple, Emma. And where, pray tell, could you possibly see a problem? It's obvious, really. The victim suffered a single stab wound to the back. So in other words, I guess what everybody else is assuming is that he was stabbed once, the tip broke off, and then this is an image of him being stabbed a second time,
right,
or about to be stabbed a second time. But that's not the case. It's only a single stab wound. If the victim was only stabbed once, then the murder weapon should not yet be broken. Ugh! What's the meaning of this? Perhaps the knife was broken beforehand. Sorry, but I'm afraid that's not possible. The tip of the knife was found inside the victim's body. If it was broken beforehand, it couldn't possibly wind up there. That's right, but what does this mean? Oh, Jesus Christ, so much. The tip of the knife was undeniably discovered within the victim's body. The only possible explanation is the witness's memory is mistaken. Son of a bitch. That's why I asked her so many times if she was sure she remembered correctly. I believe you were annoyed at the time, but she was sure she remembered correctly. But there's no other way to explain this inconsistency. Oh my God. Not so fast, Mr. Edgeworth. There is another explanation. Have you forgotten already about a little something called falsified evidence? You're treading on thin ice, Wright. All I'm saying is that this broken knife tip might be the piece of evidence that was forged. You can't deny the possibility. No. Ugh! Order! 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 Are you saying the investigation really was corrupted? Your Honor, please allow me to once again go over the events that took place the day of the murder. The police department and the prosecutor's office were holding a ceremony that day. After receiving the King of Prosecutors Award at the ceremony, Neil Marshall questioned Joe Dark along with Damon Gant. During his questioning, Joe Dark fled the room. Prosecutor Marshall chased after him and was killed by Dark. It is my belief that somewhere in this story, there is a lie. I'm not lying. The man really was holding up a broken knife. If that's true, then there's no other way around it. This could not have been the actual murder weapon. There must have been another broken knife. What are the chances of there being two broken knives? Another broken knife besides Joe Dark's. Could there have been one? Hell yeah. We know what it is, too.
Yeah.
If the witness is this adamant about the accuracy of what she saw, it can't just be explained away by a simple observational error. Mr. Wright. In that instant, Emma really did see a broken knife. I assume, then, that you have some information about this other broken knife? If so, please feel free to enlighten us. The murder weapon was already broken prior to the murder. There's only one way. Take a look at this. Here's the real murder weapon. The answer lies in the past. 2 years in the past. Excuse me. Right here, inside this picture. This is a picture of the award ceremony. Oh, sorry, Edgeworth. This is a picture of the award ceremony. What is it, Mr. Edgeworth? It's the broken murder weapon.
Yep.
Notice the award Prosecutor Marshall is holding. That's a broken knife. As we earlier concluded, the knife in the drawing was not... Oh, sorry, I'm doing Edgeworth's voice again. As we earlier concluded, the knife in the drawing was not Joe Dark's knife. That being the case, the knife the witness saw was in all likelihood from this award. Order! 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 Neil Marshall was awarded King of Prosecutors that day. As an award, he was given this broken shield and knife. When he chased after Joe Dark, he pulled out his knife. Being a prosecutor, he did not carry a pistol. This broken knife was the only weapon he had in this dangerous situation. But that can't be! Oh? And why not, Mr. Edgeworth? Because if the King of Prosecutors Award knife was the murder weapon, then the murderer and the victim would be reversed. What do you mean? I mean, this man raising a knife would have been Prosecutor Neil Marshall. Oh. Oh! I mean, I kind of thought that as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was a tussle.
But the prosecutor was the one who actually died! That's true. What's going on here? Again, it was Gant. We kind of figured that even though Lana thought she was the first person into the room, it doesn't mean that she was.
Right.
Because the only witness at the time, Emma, was unconscious. But I don't know that we have evidence of that. It seems Mr. Wright has been a bit too eager to jump... Oh, sorry. I guess I should actually do the Edgeworth voice instead of just reading it. It seems Mr. Wright has been a bit too eager to jump to conclusions. Wait! I remember now! I remember everything! Witness? Mr. Edgeworth! What is it? Could you show me your evidence list again, please? His list? The one with that picture scribbled on the back? I knew it! This picture! I'm the one who drew it! What? You drew that? That's right! The list wasn't torn in half at the time I drew this picture. Is it... Okay. All this time I've been trying so hard to forget. I must have locked this part away deep inside me. Perhaps it would be best if we added this to the witness's testimony. Would you please tell us what you've recalled, Miss Skye? Yes, Your Honor. First the knife mix-up and now the blue badger? Alright, so give me a second then. Because we've got this fixed, and it'll let us check it, but this is it. This is all it's showing. Is it possible that this picture that she drew isn't the blue badger? But is like some stylized version of these handles or something? Is that an option? Is there like any point where you could look at this from where that's what you see? Maybe? Right? Doesn't it kind of look like it this way? A little?
Yeah.
I don't know why she would be looking at it that way. Maybe from this angle? I don't know, man. Okay. Anyway, we'll see. We'll just let the game play out, I guess. This should be interesting. Okay. Witness's testimony, Emma's recollection. When I saw that man raise his knife, I panicked and rushed toward both of them. I think I knocked away the man with the knife. Just then, there was another flash of lightning, and that's when I saw the blue badger. What? He wasn't in the room, but I'm sure I saw his shadow.
Shining in from outside.
They're on the 15th floor.
This is certainly most unusual.
Yeah, huge objections.
Try impossible. The chief of detectives hadn't even designed him until this year.
It does say design, but I read it correctly. That would mean he didn't even exist 2 years ago.
Yes, well, the defense may now begin its cross-examination.
Stop, please. Don't pursue this any further. Lana.
What's the meaning of this? Please remain seated in the defendant's chair.
But you can't do this. I've already confessed to the crime. Why can't you just leave it at that?
Uh-huh. Alright, so we're about to find out.
That Emma killed him. Killed one of them.
Or at least that Lana thinks she did.
Right. Or Gant thinks she did.
Yeah.
Chief Prosecutor Skye. We've already come this far. It's too late to turn back. Silence!
Whoa! Judge growing a pair of balls all of a sudden.
Yeah.
The defense will now begin its cross-examination. Bailiff, please detain the defendant.
It seems we're finally getting to the core of the matter. Okay. We're gonna find out that Emma did something. She said she rushed them, so she may have ended up with a knife and stabbed one of them.
Yeah.
In the dark.
Right.
When I saw that man raise his knife...
What man?
Exactly. When you say that man, I assume you refer to Joe Dark? Yes, at least I think it was him. You think? All I could really see were shadows.
The power outage that immediately preceded the incident is also documented in the prosecutor's office records or reports. So then you...
I panicked and rushed toward them. Why would you do something so dangerous? What else could I have done? He was about to stab Mr. Marshall. She seems convinced that Dark was the one holding the knife, but as we've just theorized, Mr. Marshall was the one holding the knife.
Yes, but you didn't explain why at all.
Well, because it was from the King of Prosecutors trophy. So the trophy wouldn't have been, it's Marshall's trophy.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been in that office.
No, I know.
So
Marshall was in there with the trophy. So the killer could have taken it and used it just as much.
I don't...
Maybe not just as much,
I don't know.
but could have also done it for
It
sure.
seems like Marshall chased after Joe Dark. Joe Dark would have had... He probably wouldn't have had his own knife. I mean, they're implying that he would have. But why would he have had his own knife in the room that he was being questioned in? The police, I mean, again, I'm working off of US laws, but the police would have been able to frisk him and remove any dangerous weapons from his person,
right,
at least while they were questioning him, right? Even if nothing came of the questioning,
we
they would...
talked about keystering, though. Maybe it was in his keister.
They would have removed the item from him, and even if nothing came of the questioning and they released him, right, to just go about his day, they would have then returned his property to him on the way out. But because he had a knife, they would have confiscated it at least for the period of time that they were questioning him.
Right.
That's just how that works. Again,
Yeah,
this
he
is
wouldn't
standard.
have been let into the building with it on him.
If it was a police department or a prosecutor's office, yeah, most likely. Well, I didn't know that at the time. When that dark guy knocked me down, all I could think was, I've got to help that other person. I think I knocked away the man with the knife. You think? What do you mean, you think? It all happened so fast, and I was in shock. I don't remember everything clearly. What I did, it's all kind of a blur.
Miss Skye was almost killed before she was witness to a murder about to take place. With so much happening in a matter of seconds, a little disorientation is only natural.
I saw the man about to stab the other person, who I thought was Mr. Marshall. I knew I had to stop the man with the knife.
What you did was very brave, young girl. So then, what happened next?
Just then there was another flash of lightning, and that's when I saw the blue badger. Are you sure about this? Of course. See? I even drew a picture of him here.
But it was the chief of detectives who thought up this hideous beast. And that was just this year. The blue badger didn't exist 2 years ago. This is all quite verifiable.
I know it sounds strange. I was surprised too when I saw him at the police department. I had this nagging feeling that I'd seen him before somewhere. And, Gumshoe said that too. When we showed him the vase, he said, I feel like I've seen this somewhere before.
Yeah.
And we assumed that it was from the picture.
Right.
But it wasn't.
It was what?
It's the outline of the blue badger.
Okay.
Is like I'm saying, I think it's the whatchamacallit, the handles and the vase itself make the outline of the blue badger.
I mean,
And that's what she saw reflected on the wall. Maybe one of them had picked up that vase and used it as a weapon, hence why there was blood and it was broken. Oh, brother. Just when you thought that thing had caused enough commotion. Tell us, where in the room did you see him dancing? He wasn't in the room, but I'm sure I saw his shadow. His shadow? So you mean you didn't actually see his face with its winning smile and all?
With its bulging eyes.
That's right, but I still remember it. He had 3 creepy horns. Yeah, it's 100% that goddamn vase.
Yeah, but the positioning's wrong.
Maybe.
Of the 3 prongs.
Maybe. We'll have to see. This is pointless. That thing couldn't have possibly existed 2 years ago. The witness must be mistaken. That may well be. But what's important is what caused her to think she saw what she did. Oh? And I suppose you have an explanation? I mean, I do. If so, by all means, please tell us what this shadow really was. What was it Emma saw when that lightning flashed? Who is this blue badger really? I just might know, or I'm not sure. The blue badger hadn't even been dreamt up when Emma drew this picture. Yet, she's certain she saw its shadow. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the defense's belief that on that fateful day 2 years ago, there indeed was something that looked similar to the blue badger. Something that is now sitting in this very room. Mr. Wright! In this room? Very well, Mr. Wright. What is it that the witness saw in that instant? Please show us this mysterious blue badger look-alike. Yeah. Because that third handle is there, but broken. Mm-hmm. If it wasn't broken at the time that this incident occurred 2 years ago, then maybe that was it. The mysterious blue badger was in fact this. But that's... what exactly is that? I believe it's some sort of jar. But Mr. Wright, that doesn't look anything like the blue badger. Indeed it doesn't. As it stands now, it's just a plain jar. However, what if we were to change our viewpoint? Our viewpoint? I've got to show them the correct angle to look at this from. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. There it is. Right? Or do we want to, like... Because you can't... Hold on. Like this? But, like, before it was broken? Right? This is broken, right?
Yeah.
So, like... This... Well, not this way. Oh, yeah. No, okay. No. So, I'm right. It's got to be this. And then, like this, maybe? It's got to be that way. This isn't right. I've got to make it look more like the badger. God damn it. Allow me to remind the defense its case hinges on the witness's drawing. If Mr. Wright can't match the shape the witness drew, we cannot accept his claim. I've got to find just the right angle. Maybe I should rotate it vertically a bit more. Or horizontally? Come on, Mr. Wright, you can do it. I've got to show them the correct angle to look at this from. Or is it like this?
Oh, maybe.
Right?
Yeah.
But like more this
'Cause
way?
that's like the bulbous bottom.
Yeah, so it's got to be like this kind of?
Or like down more.
This way or the other way?
No, the other way.
This way.
That way the top is shorter.
So like that.
Yeah, but isn't that how you had it before?
I thought so. God damn it. It's got to be that way. It looks exactly like that. Okay.
Maybe they just want you to use the handles
What do you mean?
as the hat. But that's why I said the positioning is wrong. Because then there would be like 2 on either side and 1 on the bottom of the head instead of on the top.
Right. So is it like this? Hold on. Yeah, there it is.
Oh, okay.
Just like that.
Yep.
Got there. Well, is this a miracle or what? I mean, kind of, yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right. No one can possibly deny this jar's resemblance to the Blue Badger. No! It can't be!
Well, Gumshoe is not the smartest, so I'm wondering if,
He saw that.
he got his inspiration from something.
Sounds about right. Order! Order! The defense has proven its claim. The mysterious Blue Badger witnessed on the day of the crime was actually this. Although we all enjoyed Mr. Wright's dramatic performance, one question remains. What's your point? What do you mean? So that badger thing was actually just a jar. That doesn't change anything. I'm afraid that's where you're wrong, Mr. Edgeworth. You see, this changes everything. Indeed? Very well then, please tell us. What's different now that we know the witness saw this jar? The location, the murder weapon, or the murderer?
The murder weapon.
Allow me to take these in turn. At the moment of the murder, the witness saw this jar. At a very specific angle, I might add, Mr. Wright. Yes, well, knowing this, where could she have seen this jar? Where? The location of the jar is shown in a picture taken on the day of the crime. It's on a shelf in the office of Damon Gant. But the body was found lying near Lana Skye's desk. The witness testified so herself. Yes, and it's these 2 facts that reveal what actually transpired. You see, the struggle between Dark and Marshall did not take place in Lana Skye's office. It happened on the other side of the room, in Chief Gant's office. Are you implying the murderer moved the victim's body? From Damon Gant's office to Lana Skye's office? Yes. Why would he do that? There's no reason.
Yes, there is. To frame Lana.
Exactly. If there wasn't a reason, he wouldn't have gone through the trouble. The only logical conclusion is that there was a reason. Do you know what that reason was, Mr. Wright? I finally figured it out. So this is why Lana tried to stop the trial. It's too late to quit now, though. Please recall the witness's testimony. She said she knocked away the man who was holding up the knife. In the next instant, the jar was hit and flew through the air. Now tell me, what could have sent the jar flying? That would have to have been the impact the man made when he was knocked into the wall. Ladies and gentlemen, if I may draw your attention to this picture once more. If the man was knocked in the direction of the shelf the jar was sitting on, what would he have hit? The suit of armor, holding a very sharp and dangerous-looking sword.
Yep.
Yes. And since the man who was knocked into the armor was carrying a broken knife, he would have had to have been Neil Marshall, wielding the King of Prosecutors trophy. No! Mr. Wright, you can't be thinking... Yes. There is another possibility of what actually transpired in that room. Another possibility? Of course, the perpetrator would have had no idea, but nevertheless... I don't know if I can go through with this. Mr. Wright,
What's the matter? If events took place as the defense theorizes, then the outcome is obvious. In that moment, assuming the man Emma Skye knocked away was actually Prosecutor Neil Marshall. Yeah, that sucks, man. You mean Mr. Marshall died because of me?
No. Mr. Marshall died because he decided to try and stab a serial killer. Instead of just, actually let him go to prison like he should have.
No! Thud. Sorry. I just wanted to be able to read that all off. But yeah, I never imagined her testimony would lead to this. So it was the witness who took the victim's life, and then proved so with her own testimony. This is unprecedented. You like saying that word today, Judge. What? What are you saying? I'm sorry, Miss Skye, but given the circumstances, Joe Dark murdered Prosecutor Marshall. How could you think it was Emma? How dare you try to pin the crime on her? Imagine that coming from you. If you recall, it was you who admitted to forging evidence 2 years ago.
Yep.
The reason you moved Prosecutor Marshall's body was to keep anyone else from finding out about what Emma did, wasn't it? I assure you, Mr. Edgeworth, I have no idea what you're talking about. If you hope to have anyone believe your insane allegations, I'm afraid you're going to have proof. Tell me, do you have any conclusive evidence that proves my sister killed Neil Marshall? Evidence? I'm willing to bet you don't. Yes, it certainly would be difficult to prove this with evidence. If we don't have evidence, then we'll have to rely on testimony. I'm afraid that won't work in this case. Both parties involved in the incident are dead. We certainly can't get dead people to testify. This has all been a wild goose chase from the beginning.
Unless we get Maya back.
We don't.
Then we can get dead people to testify.
Nice. But do you know what we're actually going to do?
No.
So that piece of cloth with Emma's handprint on it is a piece of Marshall's clothing. We said that it was a possibility. It looks like brown leather.
Yeah.
And Marshall wears brown leather. I'm assuming that Gant cut a piece of his clothing off, moved his body, and then used that to get Lana moved to the prosecutor's office and to blackmail her all this time up till now. Touche, Miss Skye. Of course. That only leaves us with one possibility. You mean there's still another possibility? What do you mean, Mr. Edgeworth? I mean, the possibility that the victim has left us a message. For better or for worse, Mr. Marshall did not die instantly. He may have left behind the name of the person who took his life, in one manner or another, or manner or another. That's impossible. Well, Mr. Wright, this is the only possibility left to you. A message from the deceased. Does such a message exist? I've got to think back to the court record. The real murderer's name that the victim may have left behind is in the evidence or doesn't exist.
Is in the evidence.
This message from the deceased is already in our possession. Mr. Wright, will you stop at nothing to prove my sister a murderer? Do not be mistaken, Miss Skye. Our purpose is not to accuse Emma of any crime. There is only one thing we seek: the truth. No matter how painful it may be. Now then, Mr. Wright, please show us the piece of evidence that conveys a message from the deceased. So we know it's gotta be this, right? The writing on the jar.
The writing on the jar?
Yeah, the blood. He used his blood to write on the jar.
Oh, I thought you were going to use the handprint.
No, that's not a message from the deceased. It's Emma's handprint.
Okay.
Right? So I mean, if I'm wrong, then we'll change it, but then
he
we'll try
didn't
the
write anything.
cloth.
It's like
Well,
a portion of a letter.
we're gonna try. This is the message left by the deceased. This is that blue badger from before, right? Judge, it's not... Oh, is he going to just speak the killer's name? If that thing could, I'm sure it would. Looks like everyone's forgotten this is just a jar. A message was left here, on the surface of this jar. What do you mean? If you look closely, you can see a faint trail of blood on this jar. Looks like someone wiped the blood away. Yes, but notice. For some reason, the blood on some of the fragments was not wiped away. Yes, there is a line here, drawn in blood. Shit, it's EMA. I hadn't put it together yet, but yeah. It's I can use my mouse, I guess, to point it out. So this is the top left corner of the E. This is the top prong. Down to here, the middle prong. I'm not telling you this like you don't know it. I'm pointing out what I've now noticed. And this is here behind the judge name is the bottom corner of the E that then goes to here. This is the M going up, down, and then back up again. Here's the corner, down to the bottom. And then the A is right here. Yep. Interesting. So when did you figure that out? I only just noticed that.
When they put it on the screen.
Damn it. Okay. Yes, there is a line here, drawn in blood. So what you're saying... Oh God. God bless you.
Thank you.
Is these dots were once lines. Prosecutor Marshall did not die instantly. He used the few precious moments left to him to leave behind a message. One that someone apparently wiped away. But blood must have seeped into the jar where the lines changed directions. Precisely so. All we need to do is connect to these points, and the victim's message will become apparent. No. Mr. Wright, what kind of message did the victim leave for us? Your Honor, I believe these bloodstains will reveal to us the answer. I've got to connect these dots to make letters. There's only one thing the victim would have written, given the circumstances. His murderer's name. Okay. Oh, right, not the mouse. Silly. Okay. So we go like this, and like this. We go like this, and like this. We go like this, and like this. Do they make us connect to this one as well? No, okay. And then we go like this to here, and like this to here. Is there any other way to look at this? Can we make Gant out of this?
I mean, the E could be a G, right?
Yeah.
And I guess that could be an A.
Yeah.
But then an N and a T, I don't really see it.
Neither do I. It blatantly looks like Emma. But that... Could it be Gant? Would it let us do this? No, it doesn't. Okay. No. Okay. So then, yeah, there's only the one option. Alright. Damn it. Sorry for having to redo this, everybody. I just really thought that we could, like, make it say Gant and then we wouldn't have to worry about it anymore. It's a defense attorney's duty to prove their client's innocence.
That's why you were fired.
That's why all I've been thinking about is saving Lana. It's not So again, I think I said this at the beginning of this series. It's not the defense's job to prove their client's innocence. It's the defense attorney's job to, if their client is guilty, make the prosecution prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt.
Right.
And if it's not that way, then yes, it's to challenge the prosecution's case and point out inconsistencies, etc., to bring out the truth of the situation. And yes, of course, the client would love it if you would get them declared not, innocent or not guilty or whatever. But
Well, not in this case.
yeah, that's why all I've been thinking about is saving Lana. After all my efforts, I never thought it would turn out like this.
You didn't? Because I kind of thought that from, like, halfway through.
Emma.
And this shit was long.
So this is the final message Prosecutor Marshall left behind. I still think it could be Gant somehow, but we'll have to see. Of all people, she may not have meant it, but in the end, the one who took the victim's life was Emma Skye. Seaworthy? Can't say I didn't warn you. This dude again. Chief Gant. Do you understand the implications of what you've done? What? What are you talking about? 2 years ago, Joe Dark was sentenced to death. He was convicted because of his final murder. I believe you were the prosecutor in the case, were you not? Ugh. Yes, Worthy. Because of you, an innocent man was sentenced to death. Not only that, but you used forged evidence to ensure his conviction. But Joe Dark really was a serial murderer. That's undeniable. I'm afraid that's not important. Jesus Christ. Didn't you know? We aren't defenders of justice. What? We're merely keepers of the law. Sentencing a man to death is no light matter. That I'll agree with, at least. Even if there wasn't any cover-up or evidence forgery, ultimately the responsibility falls on the prosecutor in charge. I guess? Despite what anyone may say, this fact cannot be denied. It's very loud. What's going on at the prosecutor's office? They might have sent an innocent man to his death. How could he just stand there like it wasn't his fault? Order! 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 The gavel's pounding fell on deaf ears. Unable to settle the crowd, the judge declared a recess. Where this trial is headed, no one knows. And it will be continued.
Nice.
Yeah, we did it. That was a much easier episode than we've had recently, which is nice. And that's the end of this one. What do you think so far?
Yeah, I mean, it's not great.
We did it. We got Emma declared as a murderer.
Yeah, 'cause
Success.
we're like, yeah, it was Gant. And now we're like, shit, But, I mean, there was no real reason for Lana to go to such lengths unless it was Emma, right?
Yeah.
And Gant just knew about it. And so he hid the evidence, and she took the fall.
So I guess, again, this piece of fabric with Emma's handprint on it, it's gotta be, like I said, I still surmise that it is a piece of Marshall's clothing from that day that Gant has to prove that it was Emma who shoved him away. Right?
Or to make it so that you can't prove that it was Emma.
Well,
Shove
right,
them
but
away.
but that he could have used later, which is why he was blackmailing Lana the
Right.
whole time. So,
if you think that that's what it was. I, at this point, don't think it was that. At this
Okay.
point, I think it was Gant knew about it.
Mm-hmm.
Lana said, help me, I gotta do something.
oh, interesting.
Lana took the fall, and Gant hid the evidence.
But then, okay, but I guess I'm saying,
To protect Emma.
right, but what perpetrated this whole, like, Goodman situation? I guess Goodman found out it was Emma, maybe?
Could be.
And so then Gant
Or
said...
he was nosing around. He was the detective on that
Lead
case.
detective, eventually, yeah.
And it was his locker that the evidence got put in.
Right.
And then when it was time to make the transferal, maybe he noticed the inconsistencies and said, wait a minute, this isn't the right knife.
Right.
Or, whatever it was that he determined.
Sure.
And then they found out that he was nosing around, and so just because Gant didn't kill Marshall and hid the evidence from the Joe Dark murder
Right.
doesn't mean he didn't facilitate the death of Goodman.
Oh, certainly. I 100% still think he facilitated the
Yeah.
death of Goodman. In fact, he may very well have actually killed Goodman, because
Right.
don't forget, Lana didn't kill him. She stabbed his already stabbed body.
Right. According to her, at least.
Well, sure, but why at that point, why would she have had a reason to lie? Like, we had already figured
don't
everything else out. And she was confessing right on the spot, and we now know why she was doing that. It was to protect Emma. So, or at least to do whatever Gant said,
Right.
which in turn likely would have been to protect Emma.
Right.
So, very, very interesting.
Yeah, so when I said Lana took the fall, what I meant is she took the fall for this murder 2 years later.
Right.
Because of the fact that she didn't want anyone to find out that Emma accidentally murdered Marshall.
Exactly.
2 years earlier.
Right. Especially even because of Emma, right? She's like an innocent girl in
Right.
all of this.
Yeah.
But also Jake really likes her. Like
Yeah.
not in that way, but like appreciates her and like talks to her and is friendly with her. And if he
she
ever
likes
found
him
out,
too.
exactly. And if he ever found out, I should say, that she was the one who killed his brother by accident or otherwise, that really puts a strain on that relationship. Like we talked last episode or 2 episodes ago about like forgiveness and that whole concept, but still, that's rough.
Yeah, but I mean, knowing that it was an accident and that she's an innocent young girl and she didn't even remember what happened or really see what happened. Like,
I fully get it, but at this,
I
go
don't
ahead.
know that would put that much restraint on that relationship.
All I was going to say is that I could absolutely understand if Jake was like, I can't interact with you anymore. Like, I can't talk to the person who's responsible for my brother being dead. Like, maybe you're right. Maybe he would be able to be, like, strong enough to be like, you know what? It was a complete accident. I get it. You're a kid.
Yeah, it wasn't
no
her
worries.
fault.
Of course. But still, I
And
could absolutely see.
I think for me, that I think that it wouldn't make sense
Okay.
in my mind to then blame her.
Fair enough.
It wasn't her fault.
Maybe we'll see, maybe we won't. I don't imagine it'll go that far into it. I'd like to think that in the continuation of this trial, in the next episode, stay tuned for that, by the way, that I'd like to think that in the next episode, we do one of 2 things, if not both. We prove Gant's guilt in all of this, in all the cover-ups, in the, hopefully the murder of Goodman in the first place, and also somehow prove Emma's innocence as well.
I mean, I think we did prove Emma's innocence. Like, Marshall is dead, but it wasn't her fault. That doesn't mean that she doesn't have to go to prison for that.
What I'm implying is I'd like to think that we're going to be able to prove that she didn't cause him to stumble backwards into that thing.
Okay. I don't have any inkling that we're gonna do that.
don't either, but that's why I say I'd like to think that that's what the next episode holds. But to find out exactly what the next episode holds, please don't forget that you can subscribe and ring that bell. I mentioned it earlier, but it is super important. You will get notifications when that video comes out next week. And then you can check out our other series on this channel as well. And we have other channels as well, as I mentioned, linked down in the description box below. Do you have anything else for this one or no?
No.
Okay, then that is the end of this particular episode. Thank you all so very much for being here. Please stay tuned for next week. We will see you then to find out what the heck is going on in this trial. And maybe it's the finale, maybe it's not. I suspect we will have a little bit more. But for now, from us here at the Geek for All family of channels, I've been Joe.
And I'm Amy.
And as we always say, in whichever video of ours you watch next, we will see you all next time. Thanks, everybody.